Good afternoon, my dear students. I welcome you all to our online class. And today we are going to do a new poem from our Bal Bharati textbook. Okay? It's called Time for Everything. Now, as I told you that whenever you are doing a poem, if there is the name of the poet or the poetess, you need to say that name. If there is no name, then you are going to say Time for Everything by Anonymous. I know some of you must be saying Anonymous. Okay? Now, what is this poem Time for Everything? Okay? I'll read it out to you and then I'll explain. There's a time to run and a time to walk. There's a time for silence, a time for talk. There's a time for work and a time for play. There's a time for sleep at the close of day. There's a time for everything you do, for children and for grown-ups too. A time to stand up and a time to sit. But see that the time and actions fit. So when you say the title Time for Everything, means exactly discipline also matters a lot in this, right? You need to do everything as per the timetable. Correct, children? So there's a time to run and a time to walk. Now when a child is born, the child doesn't start immediately running or walking, right, students? There is a particular time that where they have to run and they walk, like 1 year, some of them even when they are 2 years. It depends on the child, right? So there is a time to run and a time to walk. There's a time for silence, a time for talk. So whenever you are in hospital or whenever you are in the classroom, you cannot keep talking every time. You have to maintain silence. Only when you are asked to speak, that is the time you have to speak, right? And then when you have to talk, you will have to talk, right? So that is why there's a time for silence and a time for talk. Third line, there's a time for work and a time for play. Correct. Now when you see your parents going to work, right, or your auntie, uncle, or your brother or your sister, they go to work at a particular time, like say in the morning they leave the house at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and then when they return home, it is in the evening around 7 or 8. So they know that they have to reach their office at 9 o'clock, and then their office will leave and finish their work by 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. So there's a time for work, and when you are working, you cannot play. Because if you will mix both, children, then you will not be able to give good result, right? So if you are playing, you cannot work, and if you are working, you cannot play. So there's a time for work and a time for play. Next line is, there's a time for sleep at the close of day. What do you mean by this line? It means that you have time to sleep, right? Some of you sleep during the afternoons. If your parents or your mother is tired, then they take a little nap. They rest during the afternoon, isn't it? And same goes to you. But at the close of the day, that means at night. Close of the day means night. Okay, this means night. Okay, so close of the day. So there's a time. Everyone has a timetable. Like some of you sleep at 9 o'clock, some of you sleep at 10 o'clock, some of them sleep at 11 o'clock, and so on. Every family, there's a timetable that they follow. So there's a time for sleep at the close of the day. Next line, there's a time for everything you do, isn't it, children? Yes, there's a time for everything. Like you cannot have your breakfast for your lunch and your lunch for your dinner and your dinner for your breakfast. When you have to have your breakfast, that is the time you have to have your breakfast. When it is time for your lunch, that is the time you're supposed to have your lunch, and your dinner for the same. For children and for grown-ups too. So this time for everything is not only for children, my dear students, but it is applicable also for our grown-ups. So we cannot take things lightly and say, okay, let's, we'll do it later on. No, that's not how it is. You need to have a timetable, and your punctuality matters a lot. So if you respect time, things will automatically fall in place. So children and grown-ups both have to follow time for everything that they do. Next line, a time to stand up and a time to sit. Yes, there are times when you have to stand up. Like when you are having your PT period, you have to stand up and start doing your exercises. Or for example, if you are punished, then you have to stand up. And then when you are relaxing or when you are sitting in your class, then that is the time when you sit. When you're having your meals, that is the time you sit. When you're doing some kind of exercise at certain postures, you have to sit. So you have time to stand up and you have time to sit as well. So you see how important this word time is, students. It's very important. I want all my students to value this word time, because if you start valuing it, children, automatically you will be very good at all your work that you do. Believe you me. The last line, but see that the time and actions fit. So now what does this line actually mean? But see that the time and the actions fit. Now suppose if it is morning and you cannot have your dinner in the morning. That is not correct, right? So your time has to go along with your actions. So whatever you are doing, you have to follow the timetable. That is why I tell you that you need to prepare a timetable. Like as we tell you that studying and in the school hours or studying during tuitions, that is only not enough. You need to give more time and study. Extra 2 hours, 3 hours you can study. Okay? Alright, students. So now for homework, I want you all to draw a clock. You have to draw a clock. Okay, this will be in your homework book. Now you can make this clock very attractive. Okay, this clock has to be very attractive and you need to color it nicely, and this will be in your homework book, and you have to write 5 things that you would do in a day. Okay, 5 things that you would do in a day, like from suppose if I say, if I get up at 9 o'clock, right? So I say 9 a.m. wake up, and then what you would do. Okay, that will be number 1. Then number 2 will be, I'll brush my teeth and then I will have a bath. Okay, then I'll put new clothes, then I will have my breakfast. So this way you have to write 5 things. So on one page you will draw a clock, a nice attractive clock, and then in the next page you are going to write 5 things that you would do in a day. Now I will speak in Hindi and I will say for those students or parents that they have to understand. ये होमवर्क आपको जो करना है, एक घड़ी बनानी है आपको अच्छी वाली, उसको कलर करना है, ये होमवर्क बुक में आपको करना है. ठीक है, वो घड़ी को अच्छे से आप कलर कर सकते हो, उसको अट्रैक्टिव लुक देना है. ठीक है, और दूसरे पेज में आपको 5 चीज़ें लिखनी है जो आप दिन में करते हो. जैसे सुबह आप 9 बजे उठे, उसके बाद में आपने ब्रश किया, आप नहा लिए, आपने कपड़े पहन लिए, फिर आपने ब्रेकफास्ट किया. ठीक है, ये एक एग्ज़ाम्पल है, मतलब एक उदाहरण है जो मैं आपको दे रही हूँ. तो दिन में आप जो चीज़ें करते हैं, एटलीस्ट मुझे 5 चीज़ों का लिस्ट वैसे चाहिए. ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, पेरेंट्स, प्लीज़ आप उनको गाइड कीजिए और ये होमवर्क मुझे चाहिए, ठीक है। ये होमवर्क 1 सितंबर के लिए है, ओके। और ये मुझे आपको होमवर्क बुक में करना है और ये ड्राइंग भी बनानी है आपको। कोई पिक्चर नहीं स्टिक करना है, आपको ड्रॉ करना है ये क्लॉक, घड़ी को, ठीक है। ऑलराइट पेरेंट्स, थैंक यू so much for your time. God bless you all.